Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack something pretty incredible: how scientists actually figure out what a protein does and what it physically is. We're opening up the biochemist's dual toolkit, looking at both the hardcore math of enzyme action and the hands-on lab techniques we use to separate and visualize these microscopic workhorses. So let's just dive right into it with a super fundamental question. How do biochemists actually manage to decode the complex enzymes that run our bodies when they're, well, completely invisible to the naked eye? Structural biology is great, right? It gives us a static, frozen snapshot of an enzyme's shape, but life isn't static. To truly grasp how biology works at a molecular level, we have to find ways to measure these invisible machines in motion, and then figure out how to physically pull them apart to confirm their identities. Here is our roadmap for today. Section 1, the biochemist's toolkit. 2, enzyme kinetics and saturation. 3, the Michaelis-Menten equation. 4, modulating enzyme activity. 5, protein separation via SDS-PAGE. And finally, Section 6, running and troubleshooting gels. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the biochemist's toolkit, function and form. To really understand a protein, you need a toolkit that captures both its living function and its static physical form. Knowing what a protein looks like just isn't enough. You gotta know how fast it works, how efficient it is, and what happens when its path gets blocked. Moving on to Section 2, enzyme kinetics and saturation, dynamic function. Let's jump into the dynamic side of things. We want to analyze how fast these microscopic machines actually do their jobs. Now, enzyme kinetics is just the quantitative study of reaction rates. By looking at the initial velocity, which we call V0, basically the very beginning of a reaction, we can map out a protein's fundamental efficiency. In the lab, you mix an enzyme with its substrate and look at that split second right after they meet. By focusing on this initial burst before the substrate runs out or the product builds up, we can treat the substrate concentration as a constant. It makes the math a whole lot simpler and gives us a crystal clear window into the enzyme's raw catalytic power. Think about it like a factory. The enzymes are highly caffeinated factory workers, and the substrate is the raw material rolling down a conveyor belt. At first, as you speed up the belt and add more materials, the workers speed up too. Production increases linearly. But eventually, if you throw enough materials at them, the workers simply can't assemble them any faster. Every single worker is busy. The reaction levels off and hits a plateau. In biochemistry, we call this state enzyme saturation. Section 3, the Michaelis-Menten equation, quantifying performance. This brings us to quantifying all this performance. How do we take that factory floor chaos and turn it into elegant math? Well, we use the famous Michaelis-Menten model proposed way back in 1913. Their model gives us two totally crucial parameters. The first is Vmax. This is exactly what happens when every single worker in our factory is swamped. It's the theoretical maximum velocity the reaction can achieve. At this plateau, virtually every enzyme molecule is bound to a substrate, forming an enzyme-substrate complex. Literally, no matter how much more substrate you pump in, the reaction physically cannot go any faster. And that leads to our second parameter, Km, or the Michaelis constant. Now, Km isn't a speed, it's a concentration. Specifically, it's the exact substrate concentration you need to get the enzyme working at exactly half of its maximum capacity, half of Vmax. This is a brilliant indicator of how efficient an enzyme is when raw materials are actually scarce. If an enzyme has a very low Km, it means it gets up to half its top speed even when there's barely any substrate around. It's incredibly sensitive and efficient. Put these pieces together and you get the Michaelis-Menten equation, the absolute cornerstone of steady-state kinetics. V0 equals Vmax times the substrate concentration, divided by Km plus the substrate concentration. This one little algebraic formula perfectly describes that hyperbolic curve of our factory workers getting overwhelmed. It lets researchers actually calculate and compare the fundamental efficiency of different enzymes all across biology. Section 4, modulating enzyme activity, inhibitors. But what happens when someone or something throws a wrench into our perfectly running factory? In medicine and pharmacology, we rarely want enzymes just running unchecked. When you compare different reversible inhibitors side by side, they act like molecular saboteurs, messing with our Vmax and Km metrics in really specific diagnostic ways. Take a competitive inhibitor. It literally fights the substrate directly for the enzyme's active site. Because of this, it takes way more substrate to get the reaction going, so your apparent Km goes up. But if you flood the system with enough substrate, you can still hit that original Vmax. A great real-world example? treating methanol poisoning. Doctors will actually flood a patient's system with ethanol, which competitively inhibits the enzyme from turning methanol into toxic formaldehyde. Pretty clever, right? Section 5. Protein separation via SDS-PAGE, physical form. All right, so we've mastered the mathematical function. Now we're shifting gears to the physical form, on the laboratory bench. If kinetics tells us how a protein acts, electrophoresis tells us what it actually is, structurally speaking. SDS-PAGE is an absolute game changer. By the way, the paper by Ulrich Lemley describing this method is one of the most cited scientific papers in history, over 259,000 citations. Imagine stepping into a dimmed lab, pipettes at the ready. It's like watching a complete cinematic experiment unfold right in front of you, much like the incredible protein separation presentations by Dr. Chem. The real magic here is the detergent, SDS. It aggressively coats the protein, masking its natural charge with a massive -1, about 1.4 grams of SDS for every gram of protein. This violently forces them to unfold from their complex 3D shapes into linear chains. So when we flip the switch and turn on the electricity, they separate purely by physical size or molecular weight, rather than their shape. The beauty of this discontinuous system is the physical journey the proteins take. First, they're heated with SDS to completely denature them. Then, they're pipetted into the top part of the gel, a neutral stacking gel that concentrates all the proteins into tight, sharp bands. Then, they plunge into the basic resolving gel, which is literally a microscopic polyacrylamide obstacle course. Smaller proteins zip through the pores and race to the bottom, while the big, bulky ones get tangled up near the top. Finally, a stain like Kumasi blue makes these separated proteins vividly visible to the human eye. When you look at the physical setup, you can clearly see how the negatively charged denatured proteins are forced downward toward the positive anode buffer. The electric field is the absolute driving force here. Because SDS coated everything with a uniform negative charge, they all migrate in one distinct downward direction. Without SDS, native proteins would migrate everywhere based on their varied natural charges and bulky shapes, and you'd just be left with a chaotic mess. Section 6. Running and troubleshooting gels. Biochemical detective work. Running a gel is as much an art as a science. But what happens when your experiment doesn't look like the pristine textbook examples, and you have to play biochemical detective? You might run into issues like a strange smiling band that turns up at the edges, or a messy smear. That's not just a failure. It's a highly specific clue. A smiling gel means the center is hotter than the edges, usually because the voltage was cranked too high. Smeared bands, you probably overloaded the well, or there's too much salt distorting the electric field. And if there are no bands at all, well, you might have accidentally run your invisible proteins right off the bottom of the gel. Luckily, as troubleshooting flowcharts often show, a quick logical adjustment can usually save the whole shebang. If bands are smeared, try turning down the voltage. If they're sharp but not separated well, you have to check your gel percentage. For tiny, low molecular weight proteins, you might need to cast a denser gel, say 10 to 12% acrylamide, to create a tighter obstacle course and resolve those minute size differences. So, what does this all mean? These aren't just abstract academic exercises. SDS-PAGE is absolutely crucial for things like HIV testing via Western blot. Meanwhile, enzyme kinetics helps pharmaceutical companies design the inhibitors that make up modern medicine. From designing life-saving drugs to diagnosing viruses, you really have to wonder, what completely invisible biological mysteries will these fundamental lab tools help us solve tomorrow? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the invisible world around you.